Welcome to today's edition of Tech Tuesday. I am Luis Garcia, Vice President for Emerging Technologies at Full Sail University. Today we have a very special guest, Full Sail graduate Bobby Jones. He is the founder and CEO of Purple Rock Scissors. And Bobby is a Full Sail graduate from 1997. And full disclosure, we went to school together. And since graduation, Bobby has devoted his professional life to create amazing digital experiences, blending technology and design. In 2002, he founded Purple Rock Scissors, a strategic creative agency right here in Orlando, Florida. And PRPL, or Purple, as is also known, has become very successful, employing over 60 professionals, including strategists, creatives, engineers, and managers, and serving clients worldwide, including Facebook, Cartoon Network, Disney, Universal, Siemens, and NASA, the NASA. So thank you. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And for those joining us online right now in Facebook, thank you for attending. We're going to go over some questions with Bobby for the first 30 minutes. But if you want, please submit your questions via the comments in Facebook, and our team will pass those to us, and we're going to address those in the second half of our show, about 25 minutes. All right, Bobby. How did you fall in love with technology, and what do you love the most about it?
Oh, wow. So how did I fall in love with technology? Well, first, let me just open up with saying, please definitely submit questions. That's why we do this. And it's just such a great opportunity to, I actually do better at answering your questions than I do answering questions about myself. So please, this is a two-way conversation. I want to be as engaged and interactive with you as we can. And this is such a really cool event. So submit your questions. There's no dumb questions. Anything is relevant. And I look forward to chatting with you guys at the tail end of this thing. But so how did I fall in love with technology? So, man, I just had like this weird affinity for tech before it was even really touchable or tangible because, you know, I grew up in the 80s and 90s and computers were very hard to come by, but funny enough, my parents got me like a old school Atari 800 or some, I don't remember the exact number, but one of the older Ataris, and it was like an actual computer. And I remember it had like some like training software on it, and it was like giant 5-inch floppy disks or whatever. And we would sit down at night. My dad would show me a little bit about like what those were, and we'd go through some of the stuff. But I remember writing like, I don't know, some kind of like accounting software, when I was like 13. And I actually a lot more on the creative side, but that was like all you could do on this computer. And it just intrigued me so much. And then when I remember getting in high school, we had a really cool high school at the time. Not many had it, but we were one of the fortunate ones that actually had a computer lab. And I spent all my time there, like wiring and networking computers, and just really spent probably more time than I was welcome in the computer lab. And funny story, my parents gave me recently, I went to see them just pre-COVID, and they had shared with me like an old yearbook because they were moving, and they're like, "Oh, we found one of your old yearbooks." And I flipped to the back, and it really rang home for me because someone had written, "Good luck with the whole computer thing." Like they didn't even know, like we don't know what computers are, but good luck with it. And and it's funny because it's, I stayed kind of true to that all the way to now, and it's been fun. It's been a really cool ride.
And what do you think you love the most about technology?
Just that, like, honestly, anything is possible with technology, meaning if you can think of it, if you can, if you're willing to invest the time against it, technology is so amazing in the sense that everything from AI and its ability to solve problems. I don't know if you saw recently, like there's some AI bots that solve like some scientific algorithms that are of our DNA level that the scientists have been working on forever, and this thing they just figured it out. So I just love that technology is sort of like this peripheral, almost this extension of us that allows us to, be better than what we can on our own and compute things quicker and do really cool stuff. And so it's just always intrigued me since day one.
That's great. So you have built a very successful business. Your agency, Purple Rock Scissors, has enjoyed tremendous growth over the years and has served some of the best regarded brands in the world. What does Purple Rock Scissors do?
Yeah, so Purple's a digital since day one kind of shop, and sort of our tagline, if you will, is we're a strategic creative agency with technology at our core, and so we do everything from build mobile applications to websites, and even all the way through to consultancy level work for a business that is trying to kind of bridge the gap from doing things sort of in an old fashion, and then how do they bring those into the digital realm, and how do we support that? So we're doing really, I think the big thing is always about figuring out what that why is for that business, and figuring out how can we build something that's going to connect them to their users in a more authentic way, and then also in a more like just without a lot of thought. So how can we connect them to the user, to that product or that brand in a meaningful way where it just feels second nature? That is like that's sort of like where we live.
Mhm. And how did the idea of creating an agency came about?
Well, I mean, I didn't really have a plan to run an agency or own an agency. I'm not really that guy that sat down and had some 80-page business plan that I then pitched to a bunch of people. I think I just again, that passion. I think passion is such a critical component to what you do, and I don't feel like your passion is not like a endless well that you necessarily can tap into. I think it's something that if you do find it, you can exercise it and build it and grow it. And I think what I did was I just found myself doing things I loved and staying focused on things I loved, and not really focusing on building a business or any of those things. And I think the quality of what we produced ultimately led us to where we are today, and just wanting every little pixel to be correct, every interaction, every nuance to just be as best as possible. I think ultimately that reward was, if you do great work, which is actually one of our core values, you get to do more great work. And, it's interesting because every client we have is, we don't do any outbound marketing. So we don't like go, I don't even know how technically to go out and ask for a client. They've all come to us, and we have been in such a fortunate position to be able to work with some of the biggest brands in the world, including Facebook, Lego, like you mentioned earlier, Disney, NASA, Siemens, Cisco, LinkedIn. We did all of LinkedIn's sort of outbound marketing efforts for a very long time.
Wow.
And so all these brands come to us from like word of mouth, because like when you work from something from a passion angle versus I just am trying to like make money or just trying to cut corners and get something done, the results never really pay off. And so I think whatever it is that you're going to put your attention to, make sure that it is your true heart and your true passion, because you don't want to do something because your parents said you should be going to, XYZ school, or you should be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever that might be. You should really dig down deep and say, no, this is what I'm attracted to. This is what I kind of gravitate towards. And if it's, in that creative space, find out how to hone that and just turn that into something that you lose track of time. And if you lose track of time, you got something. Because in the early days of running Purple, it was not uncommon to work 15, 16, 17 hours, literally. I'm not making this up, a day. Because, and I didn't know, you don't notice. You're just like, wow, I totally made that work. And I totally solved a problem that no one else has figured out, or very few people have been able to solve for. And it's really going to change and influence future technology and the way people interact with things. And so that, to me, there's nothing better.
That's great. I want to ask folks again to continue. We have a couple questions already come in, but if you can continue to ask more, I'll ask a few more questions to Bobby, and then we're going to start addressing the questions of the audience. But since there's a lot of great people excited that you're here, one of the things that I find very interesting about Purple is that the values of a company is something that some companies just do, and they write them up and put them somewhere. It's something that people don't believe. So sometimes our statements that are very general but not authentic. And what I find about some of your values is they're very simple, and but it seems that really embody what the company is about. Things like do great work, and that you just mentioned, or people over projects, which is probably my favorite of the ones that you have, or be humble and care deeply. These are great values to have because they're simple, but it's explain a lot. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about how do these values manifest in the work. So let's start with people over projects. How's that manifest in the work that you guys do?
So, like with people over projects, those are sort of my personal core values versus the companies. The companies are commit, explore, and do great work. There's a couple random ones that you'll see flying around the office when we were in the office that were mine, and that is the be humble, care deeply, and the people over projects. And the sort of philosophy behind people over projects is, at the end of the day, like, the work is work, and it's challenging. We're having to innovate. We're having to work under tremendous deadlines. We've been hired and we've been paid really good money to solve problems for a brand. So the pressure is pretty intense. And so I always like to remind the staff that, and the team that, like, look, this project's super important and we have to get it out, but we never do it at the cost of others around us. And we never do it, in a way that is going to jeopardize our team in any way, or make our team feel devalued, or make them feel like they failed or whatever. So, with me, people over projects is I prioritize projects are great and they feed us and they're what make the company work. But without our people, we can't do any of that work. And so my whole thing is, how do I prioritize you over everything? If you work at Purple, how do I make you my priority? How do I know more about you? How do I feed into, like, what the why is for you, of why you're even at Purple? And how do I invest in you? How do I grow you in the career you're in? Because if I can create a safe environment for you, you're going to do one of our values, which is great work. If you come in and, day one, your manager is screaming at you and, like, we've got this deadline, and if you don't hit it, everything's, you're not going to do great work. So setting people up for success is our priority at Purple, and creating an environment that says you're welcome here. you're honored here as who you are as a human. We respect you for what your beliefs are and what you stand for. And we absolutely honor your creativity. And so when we take all those things and you really are authentically pouring into those pieces, like the magic happens. And when I say the magic, like we're a cool company and we're not like some massive startup that has all this funding that's going to change the world necessarily, but we're a great company and our people are fantastic. And the amount of this care that we put into our team, it reflects out into the projects. So if you can't take care of your people, you can't take care of your clients. And so we just make them a priority. Our team is a priority. Your family comes first. Work is second. And it always gets done, right? Like we always get the work done. And when people feel super safe to work like without hesitation, their minds open. They're not focused on the fear. They're focused on the creativity and the innovation. So that's a big
So
one for us.
at the same time that you prioritize people over projects, that other value that is yours and the company's is do great work, and which still elevates the quality of the work that you are doing. Is do great work mean that good work is not good enough? It has to be great.
It has to be great. It does have to be great, but it is. But great work is honestly the result of how we treat our people. It just is. Like the great work is a result of our people, um, and if you can't get that chemistry right, and you don't have the right people in the room, and you don't care for them the way that you need to care for them, the result's not going to be great work. So it has to be preceded with taking care of the people over projects. And if you prioritize people over projects, great work is the result. It's
You know, is
crazy.
and I've been working technology for a very long time, and usually those two values exist, but it starts with the great work, and then you take care of the people, and many times deadlines will put that to test, and uh, if you have to, in order to finish a project, you will do the project first and the people second, and whereas you seem that to have no, uh, you absolutely never cross that line.
We don't. Now, will I say, do people work late? They do, but if you have them in a healthy environment and you have made them the priority, people are willing and able to go above and beyond if they are treated with respect and they are treated with care and they are honored and heard. The biggest thing, sometimes you just got to hear people. Someone says,
Yeah.
this project is ridiculous and this project is like, why, how are we supposed to get this done? I don't solve that problem. I go, I hear that this project is ridiculous and that it is almost impossible to get done. I hear you. It is this, but that's why you're here and that's why we are who we are. And they go, yeah, you're right. So, and they just need to be heard. Like everyone at the ultimately, like it goes back to behavioral psychology. And if you can bring that into the work environment and actually really pay attention to those components, you build what I call the alkalinity in the water, right? Like a swimming pool is fantastic until it's green and then it's not, right? A swimming pool is not great when it's green. You're just
That's
like,
right.
how do we get rid of this? But a swimming pool that has all the chemicals balanced and the water's fresh and clean, everyone wants to partake. And so that has to be the preceding factor, that you have to build an environment that is conducive to doing great work. And if you don't have that environment, you can't do great work. So yeah, so that's how we do it.
Right. So I have here one of the first questions that came in from the audience, and I wish I know her name, but or his name. I think it was her. But anyway, the question is, what attributes would you say have helped you to be successful after Full Sail?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I will open that by saying, and this is not a promotion for Full Sail. It's not. I mean, I speak at other colleges. I speak at many places, and I go back to the same conversation that I would not be where I am today if it were not for Full Sail. You know, the sheer fact that I got to do things at Full Sail, we didn't get into talked about that much, but I sort of did the same thing I did in high school. Then I went to Full Sail, and I stayed around a lot longer than even I was required to each day, because I had a long commute home because I didn't live near campus. So I would stay. If I had a gap in my lab, between my lab and class, I would just stay, and I'd go hang out with, you know, some of the old school, you know, people that are still there. I won't name names, but they're in much different positions than they were back then. But they were like, "What are you still doing here?" I'm like, well, I'm gonna take it all in. And anyone that goes there should take it all in, like drink from the fire hose, because man, it's a rare opportunity. And I get that a lot of it's online now, but there's still that opportunity. That opportunity still exists. And so it's figuring out how do you manifest from that what is going to lead you into where you're going. And I think for me, you know, without Full Sail, I would not be here. And without, you know, and some of the things that I would say I took away from that is just sort of that discipline and that mindset that you have to capitalize on the moment, and that every chance, every problem is really just something that hasn't been solved, and like, how can I solve for it? It's not really a problem. It's just, it doesn't have an answer to it. So how do I take that, and how do I create like something out of nothing? And that's what I've done all along. And, you know, when I started my company, I didn't, like I said, did not have a, you know, business plan. I never got funding. Wasn't considered a startup. I'm an agency. And so I literally built it from the ground up organically over time. And some would argue that's incorrect in the business realm, and some would say it's brilliant. And so it's your choice to decide that. But, you know, I had multiple opportunities. My company has been tried to be purchased multiple times, acquired by Facebook has tried to acquire us. Other agencies have tried to acquire us, and we didn't fit where we were headed, so we didn't do it. But I'm super happy with where we are and how we've gotten here. So, you know, I'd say I wouldn't be able to do it without what Full Sail had afforded me, skill wise. And then I just took that and applied it forward as much as I could. And I think there's a value in that, in coming from Full Sail. Like, anyone that I hear, if someone comes and applies at Purple and they're from Full Sail, something tells me they're a little bit more vested. Something tells me that they're a little bit more like dedicated or care about their craft than a Rollins or another college. You know, we have people apply from all over the country, and you know that anyone who's been through sort of the rigors of Full Sail, you're like, that's someone we're probably looking for. So yeah, hope that answers.
I think that was a great answer. And by the way, it was asked by Stevie. And we have a good follow-up question from that, and from Derek, which we all know and love. I think he worked with you, and he worked with me too, and one of the great developers from the Orlando area. And he wants to know, what is the most important thing to know about yourself when you start your career after you leave school?
Most important thing to know about yourself, man, that's a tough one. I
Yes.
mean, that's a really tough question. I mean, I think to know about yourself is just like, you have to know what you really want. Again, I think I talk to a lot of campuses, and what I find out, like way more than I wish I did, is I hear more and more and more of when I ask people, why did you pick the school you're in, or why are you in this field you're in? And a lot of them literally say, my parents or my mom or my dad or was it highly influenced me here, and I'm unsure of it. And I think what you need to know about yourself is what you really want. Like, you can't, like, the word, like, to motivate, it means to have like a motive, and without knowing what your motive is, like, motivate's not me yelling at you or like pumping you up with like, you can do this. Motivate at the root is motive, and it's like, what is your motive? What's the why? What gets you excited? What do you care about? What does your inner soul get like really really excited about? And what are your, and if you can self-identify, which many people can't, is what is your gift? What do you have that makes you unique to the person next to you? And so many people, because we all get jaded by trying to mirror other people, we sometimes miss our own gifts. And when you're mirroring someone that you want to be like, you miss the opportunity to be this great version of yourself. And so I would say, get that right before you move on. And if you know that, you can't miss. You literally can't miss, because when what is pouring out of you is true and authentic, and it is of you, and it is your gift, it's like wild what happens. But when you're mirroring the guy that got better grades than you, or mirroring the guy that you think has it figured out, you'll never be seen. You'll never figure, you'll never, and then you'll wake up one day and be like, well, how did I get right here? And so I say, figure it out, know what your gifts are, and know how you can contribute back to society with those gifts, and like, you're going to crush it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So, wanted to see if we can bring up an example of an exciting project. I mean, some of the names that you have had the chance to work with are very impressive, and I'm sure that some of them were projects that were super exciting to do. However, exciting means different things for different people. So, what makes a project exciting to you? And if you can share an example, that would be great.
So yeah, so a project that I've kind of gotten past the whole concept of like starstruck by like brands, if you will, because in the beginning it was just exciting to work. Like if Pepsi called, it was like, oh my gosh, Pepsi. But you know what? Pepsi is just some guy that got hired in marketing. It's not really, it's not like, it's an intangible, truthfully. The brand is almost intangible, especially when you get into Fortune 100s. I mean, there's so many people that don't, I can say we work with Facebook, and then you could talk to Facebook and they're like, I don't know who Purple is. I have no clue. And so
Right.
I think when I got past what that intangible element was, like what excites me now more than anything is really the thing that excites me is when it's such an insurmountable problem that it doesn't seem like it can be done. That excites me. Or when it is such a turn around the corner on the innovation side, that excites me. When I can't see the solution, that excites me. So you get the point. So, like what comes to mind for me is like Lego is a really good case study for us. And Lego came to us 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, and they were like, hey, we're going to Comic-Con. It's a big deal for us this year. We really want to make a mark. How can we best interact with consumers while we're there? And we have some ideas, but they're at the end of the day, they're just like, we don't know if they're good with where they're at. And one of them was fairly good. And I'm like, and it came down to like, well, how do you solve that from a technology perspective? And so we ended up building this really cool experience for Lego that allowed us to build a personalized one-to-one. There's every single one of them is unique in the sense that you build your own comic book and it printed on the spot and in perfect bound, printed, full bleed, real comic book. You would not know the difference if this comic book was sent to a printer or if it was done here. They staple bound it. It was perfectly printed, full color, full process. And what it was this really great interactive experience where you built your own minifigure. So you would go up to an iPad installation, you would build your own minifigure, you would answer several questions about yourself. Those questions would then work against an algorithm we created, and that algorithm would then put your minifigure into a storyline as a superhero for both Marvel and Star Wars. So we had Spider-Man, we had Star Wars, and then we just had essentially the Marvel universe. And so you would pick which adventure, you were most excited about. And once you picked it, it would put your story into a comic book with your minifigure. And 4 minutes later, you go to the end of the thing, pick up your printed comic book, and it was a one of a kind with your name. Everything's custom branded to you. And that booth was the most highly trafficked booth at Comic-Con 2 years in a row. So much so that they had to position it where it didn't block people because everyone wanted one of these. And we were able to get something like, if you're into marketing in any way, shape, or form, we were able to get upwards of 4.5 minutes of brand consumer engagement, where at somewhere like Comic-Con, where every booth
impossible
is
to do.
Yeah, it's impossible. So the fact that we could capture you for 4 minutes and talk to you about our brand and give you something unheard of. So yeah, so that was super exciting. And then you talk about when taking it to this year, and I'll end with this, is we had to build Comic-Con for home. So we had to build this platform, make it work remotely on a web platform, and we did it. And it was incredible. So I think what excites me is the thrill of the project when it seems impossible.
That's a great answer. Amazing example. Thank you for sharing that. And so I wanted to ask you, the challenge that we're living that really challenged all of us and challenge a lot of the paradigms that we have in terms of what it is to work and where do we work, and it changed everything that we do and how we use technology. I think a lot of that will go back to normal, and some of these practices will stay. And what do you think will stay? What are the things about this working from home practices will stay with us? Do you think people will come back fully to offices, or what's your take?
Yeah, I think there's going to be different use cases. There's some that just flat out require it. Like if you're a tangible company, like one of my buddies owns a printing company, and you can't print stuff from home. You've got to show up, and you've got to be able to. And I have friends that own and run some of the most successful restaurant businesses that are around the country, like 60 plus restaurants. And I literally was talking to them last night, and they're like, we can't stay at home. We have to be out here doing this. And so I think there'll be this natural mix. And I think people that can identify, like if you're in our industry, I think there's a huge opportunity for higher yields of productivity while also creating this insane work-life balance, which it's, work-life balance is a whole nother hard conversation for me, but like, I think there really is this great opportunity where, you're not spending 30 minutes in a commute. You're not having to necessarily get presentable, if you will, all, like every single day and wear like this great outfit and show up to work. And get dressed crazy in the morning, then shower, then go get in your car, and then get to the office and be a respectable person and say, not just go, be sociable and say, oh, I'm going to say hi. And how is this? And did you see the game? Did you do this? You're losing 2.5, 3 hours in that mix. Whereas if I can roll up from my bed, get a cup of coffee, sit down and dive right into my work, the productivity goes up. And so I think there's this really cool opportunity existentially that says we can have both. We can build this opportunity where you can be highly productive, but you can also have this quality of life where you're taking your kid to the park, or you're going to go biking because you like biking and you don't ever get to bike because you usually are in a car most of the week. So I think there's all these really unique plays on how we're going to be able to merge the two back. It was like this, like if you want to look at it in the paradigm of like something like obvious, imagine like just getting slingshot, into remote. Like it was like a hard slingshot from like, it wasn't like this progressive thing where we got to like naturally work into it. It was like, boom, you're home. And I think now that the recoil on the slingshot is like letting loose, and it's going to come back, and it's going to balance out in the middle, and it's going to go, you know what? I can go, like we've done a poll at Purple, and most of the staff is like, I would desire to come in 2 days a week. I would desire to have the ability to come in for kickoffs of projects. And so I think, for us, we're looking at sort of a hub environment where we're going to create multiple hubs around the different cities that we have staff in. And we're going to get these micro offices that are really nice and they're rewarding for you to come participate and engage in, but you don't go there every day, clock, 9 to 5-ish, whatever. It's I'm going to go pop in because there's great snacks and I'm going to get some cool work done and see some friends. And then I'm going to go back home. I'm going to ride a scooter back to my apartment, or I'm going to do whatever. And so I think there's this autonomy that is going to come out of this, and this liberation element of like, hey, you know what? I'm not a bad person because I like to do other things. So I think there's going to be this really cool balance. It's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be those obvious roles that have to go back to the office all the time, and that's fine. And there's going to be those people that can float and sort of do whatever. And I think it's just going to be a mix. And so it's going to be exciting. I'm excited for 2021, big time.
That's awesome. I have heard this concept of the hub several times from technology companies, and think about reducing their footprint in a way that, as you said, it can be used even as a reward. That you get to go to a place when you see other people, or do the kickoff, or bring your clients, and but you don't necessarily have to be there every day. It's so great that to see it in action. I think it's for the technology sector, I think it's going to be faster than everywhere else, and but it will take a long time for that to be embraced worldwide and across industries, I think. Bobby, how has the pandemic changed your business? What has it done to the business?
It's interesting that you asked that, because I do announcements to the team on Slack, like usually once or twice a week. And something that really crossed my mind was, I feel like it has really created this awesome environment of like innovation, like how we interact with clients, how we interact as a team. I think has all been, we've pivoted to accommodate, and we've been innovative in our approach, in the sense of, we've actually built a custom platform that allows us to have multiple. It's like Zoom, but it's a little different in the sense that you can actually have multiple rooms, and different people can be in different rooms, but you can all like merge seamlessly across. Instead of starting a new meeting, you can jump across. And so we have these tools that we're using at Purple to help us like stay connected And, on the client side, I just see it as like so many companies need so much help with connectivity to their customers or their clients. And a lot of them don't know how to bridge the gap. So we've been assisting there quite a bit. And it's been really cool to see what that future looks like, in the short term. But it hasn't affected us in a negative way. We've actually almost doubled in size since June. And
almost double in size?
Almost, yeah. If you count contractors, we have doubled in size.
Wow.
Since June, which is crazy. And going into the new year, we actually need to hire probably another 15 to 20 people, I would say.
What?
So it's, I see us probably being around 100-person company this time next year. And it's been, it's been great. And I'm hesitant to say that in the time of the pandemic, obviously, but it's good to know that there are companies that it's not all gloom and doom out there, and that there are companies that are scaling, even though some businesses are shifting and the economy is shifting in such a weird way. There's a level set happening, in my opinion. And I think there's going to be a lot of good that shakes out of it. We just got to kind of hold on and see where we all land with that. But if you're in this space, I would tend to say you're in the right area for the next decade to two, without question. So anyway,
yes,
exciting times.
Super exciting. I mean, the large technology companies, the big four, big five, all of them grew up 20, 30%. Apple accumulated, gained another $1 trillion in valuation during this time. And not even talk about Amazon. And but then outside the five, I mean, Netflix and also another technology content company have grown tremendously. But what people may not know is that it is across the board, or all companies that are dealing with technologies are growing in a very healthy way. Part of that, I don't know if you agree, is that at this point, the pandemic kind of highlighted that it's every company is a technology company in a way, isn't it?
It is now. It is now, and that is what we are facing. And like I said, when we're working with a client that is not, or is trying to build a bridge to the other side, that is sort of what we're solving for right now. It's like they understand that to be future thinking and how they have to engage their constituents and clients and partners, it requires the ability to interact without seeing them. So what does that mean? How do we create this frictionless process that allows us to still meet and converse and share what we believe that they've created, whatever that is, a candle company to a sock company, you name it, they need to be able to interact and share what their vision is. And so it requires, it's all technology right now. And so, we're just trying to look at that. How do we leverage that? And how do we look ahead a little bit and, maybe try to wager some bets on where things are going?
Now, Bobby, you and your company, your employees, all are immersed in the world of digital and technology, and which is constantly changing. And I'm sure that challenges you and every single member of your team. How do you keep yourself updated? We get this question a lot from our audience, and when we have great panelists like you. And how do I keep myself updated? There's so much out there. So how do you keep yourself updated, and how do the people at Purple keep themselves updated?
I think we all spend a lot of time on Reddit and everything else, just reading at night and kind of seeing what's happening. But we also, I think it's interesting, we get to be where we are in the pulse of things, in the sense of, we do a lot of work with Facebook. We do a lot of work with some of these forward-thinking technology companies that we know where they're pointed, what their north is, and we then question why. And then we go, oh, so that's kind of where things are pointing. we should probably be pointing that way with them. It's just like the herd mentality at a smaller scale, meaning if you're involved with some of these companies, you do get a little bit of enlightenment on where things are going and why they're making decisions they're making. And then you go, all right, I'm going to make an assumption. This, they're doing that. Here's probably why we should probably start thinking about these technologies and how we can leverage them as well. So, not anything insider. It's not like we're getting privy information, but we're just making speculations based on information we're given, just like any other company.
That's great. All right, so we're getting to the last portion of our time together, and a question I always like to ask. I feel so lucky to be in the position to be able to ask you this question, so I can learn and keep myself updated. And what do you see in technology today that gets you really excited about the future?
Yeah, I mean, so many things, but I mean, I'm still just really, really excited. I've been a big fan, a big advocate of VR for a while. I've been patient. It's not quite getting the traction that I'd like to see, but I'm still a big fan. I think there's some price point changes that need to continue to happen on the hardware side. But once that happens, I really do think it's going to be a lot more accessible. I think you and I have talked about this in the past, but I mean, even like the sheer fact that I can go to online right now, probably search while we're on this and go, and there's going to be a Quest VR headset available at Best Buy, but there's not going to be, new PlayStation or a new Xbox. And so it means that tells me it hasn't hit critical mass, right? And so, and if it hasn't, I think there's obvious reasons. There's price points, there's, adoption. And we've also talked about this in the past, that VR, until you put it on, I can't tell you how great it is. You'll never know until you put it on. And so many people, that delta between where they are and getting to play with something like that, there are roadblocks to get there. And so, I think AR is probably going to have another big leap before, VR does. And then I think the other thing I'm very excited about and also nervous is AI in general. Just sort of there's been major strides in that in the last quarter.
Why nervous?
Because it has the ability, obviously, to not be in the right hands, and so while there are so many benefits to it, there's a lot of unknowns, and you just have to be careful with it. I know that I'm a big Elon advocate, and a lot of the things he discusses around that, with making sure that there are people in place to govern those things, I think is probably a critical step that's missing, that needs to continue to be worked on. And then, but I think we need it too. We need AI. So I'm excited about the advancements in that and just making our lives better. And the simple fact that scientists are leveraging it for simple things like DNA protocols and understanding how to break down molecular structures that quantitatively we can't do as humans without a lot of hours, is like, man, it's phenomenal. Like, heck yeah, let's put that to work. So those are the things I'm excited about.
Well, thank you so much. Today has been a very special interview. Thank you so much, Bobby, for taking the time for doing this. I always tell people we all get the same 24 hours. So we're really thankful for this 1 hour from your 24 hours that you gave us and our students and our audience today. So this is our last show of the year, and we'll be back in late January for more shows in 2021. And but thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you in 2021. Goodbye.